Alan Grayson recently sent out a funding letter that spelled the word Tea Party with the T being a burning cross. Now, it was hyperbole. He was clearly connecting the Tea Party to the Ku Klux Klan. Well, the media saw this and absolutely lost it. Then they asked Grayson if he wanted to apologize for it, and he said, quote, "If the hood fits, wear it." So he wasn't backing down at all. And he went on Martin Bashir's show to talk about this on MSNBC, and this happened.
We have some sympathy for your analysis, given that over the last 5 years we've witnessed plenty of instances of racial hatred toward the president, whether it's the revolting Rush Limbaugh, the imbecile Sarah Palin, or Tea Party supporters spewing their hate at various rallies. But I have to ask you, how can you possibly compare racist epithets with the racist actions of the KKK, which actually led to racist murders?
Well, today, Martin, the home of discrimination and bigotry in our country and our political system is the Tea Party, in the same way that the home of bigotry and discrimination generations ago was the Ku Klux Klan. I'm pleased that we haven't gone so far as to see those murders, but the analogy holds to that degree. In fact, we saw it on your show last week when Larry Klayman exhibited gross racism. We saw it last week when a Confederate flag was waved in front of the White House by Tea Party fanatics.
Sure. No, I accept what you're saying, sir. But I have to ask you, on the night of June the 21st, 1964, Michael Schwerner, James Chaney, and Andrew Goodman were lynched by the KKK near Philadelphia, Mississippi. How many young black and white civil rights workers has the Tea Party lynched?
Martin, I have given a reproduction of the painting of that incident to our local African American History Museum. I am well aware of what you're describing. Sometimes analogies are imperfect, but the fact remains that
so do you accept that
let me finish, Martin.
Do you accept
please.
that that may have been an inappropriate analogy?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because the modern-day torchbearers for the civil rights movement, the NAACP, 3 years ago, implored the Tea Party to remove the racists from their midst, and they failed to do so. And 2 years ago, another African-American congressman said specifically, "You and me, they'd like us hanging from a tree." And yet, still, even after that, the racism continues.
Okay.
So, no, I think the point is valid. And in fact, what needs to be done is for the Tea Party to expunge the racists from their midst.
Now, the GOP civil war is due in large part because it cannot prevent and often will not condemn some of its most hateful members from making the most, incendiary and discriminatory comments. Don't you yourself thereby debase your own party by arguing on their level?
Martin, do you think that racism is the same as calling out racism? Do you think that my effort to end racism in America is somehow analogous to racism itself?
No,
that's ridiculous.
No, what I'm saying to you, sir, though, is that you've heard your colleague John Yarmouth say that he felt that that wasn't the best analogy, that using that kind of example is inappropriate. And doesn't it actually denude the very evil of the KKK, who did perpetrate such horrific murders upon people? I mean, let's be honest, the Tea Party has not done that.
I imagine that John Yarmouth does not have emails from Tea Party members going to him saying, "Go to hell, Jew boy," or "I wish that it were you on that cross." So maybe John Yarmouth does see it differently from the way
Grayson,
I do.
I receive emails from people regularly describing me in the most inappropriate terms and asking that I be murdered and shot and hung. I accept that that happens. The point I'm simply making to you is that, is it appropriate to use such heinous crimes and to analogize them when describing the Tea Party, when you and I know members of the Tea Party have not perpetrated murders or lynchings?
And the point I'm making to you, Martin, is that if you don't speak out against it, then in effect you're collaborating with it. And in fact, if you give someone like me a hard time for speaking out against it, then maybe you're collaborating with it.
I am not collaborating with it, but Representative Alan Grayson, we've run out of time. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you, Martin.
Yeah, Alan, you lost me a little at the end there. Obviously, Martin Bashir is not with the Tea Party. But let's break this down here, because I'm split on this. So on the one hand, the right-wingers always call Democrats socialists, communists, Maoists. I mean, they make comparisons to Hitler on a daily basis. We just did one the other day where, you know, somebody on Crossfire brought it up, the dude who looked like Uncle Jesse. I think he's the head of one of the right-wing think tanks, and the media response was nothing. Van Jones called him out right there. Nobody wanted to talk about it further. And again, Limbaugh, all the time these guys are always making, Stalin, communism, this, that. You guys know the way it works. They do it ad nauseum, ad infinitum. And there is a double standard there, and I think a lot of that has to do with the expectation that the people on the far right are lunatics, and I mean, I guess some sort of level of acceptance that the people on the left are not. So we're kind of held to a much higher standard. But on the other hand, I mean, Martin Bashir is right in the sense that it is literally not true that the Tea Party is like the KKK, because, I mean, the KKK, what they're most known for, other than the obvious being an overtly racist organization and the goofy white outfits, is the lynchings. They actually murdered people fairly regularly. That's not what the Tea Party does, right? And you could argue that they're largely racist. There's a large chunk of the Tea Party that's racist, and in fact that's true, because there's overwhelming evidence for that. But you can't say that they're the same as the KKK, because they're not. They're just not. So what's my overall takeaway here? Well, number one, let's be honest. Who would the Klan vote for in the United States of America today? I mean, these guys are not Bernie Sanders fans. They don't watch Rachel Maddow on a regular basis. I mean, it's obvious. They would vote for the furthest right candidates available in any election. And who does that happen to be? It happens to be the Tea Party. But since it's true that they never murdered anybody, here's what I'll say. I personally wouldn't make the comparison that Grayson made, but I'm not going to jump down his throat about it or pile on. And the reason why I'm not going to do that is because there is a significant portion of the Tea Party that is overtly racist. And also, I think there's some good that comes out of somebody going over the line that I wouldn't cross. Because what Alan Grayson does is he shifts the debate. Whereas instead of the media before focusing on, hey, what's the Tea Party opinion on taxes or the deficit? Now they're focused on, hey, is the Tea Party like the Klan or are they not like the Klan? And of course, when it comes to having a political debate or discussion, it's in the question, it's not in the answer. And that's the more appropriate question. You know, is the Tea Party like the Klan or are they not? Because here's what is not an appropriate question about the Tea Party under any circumstances. Do they have anything substantive to add to the political conversation? Because they flat out don't.